I wanted to let you guys see those pictures for a second because, of course, we're live in Dallas for the New York Jets Dallas Cowboys game at AT&T Stadium. That game is today. We're live. It's Boy Green Daily. It's time to get this started. Let's roll. Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show. Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby. For me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever done.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. We're streaming live simultaneously in 3 different places. Technology, that's how it works, I've been told. Facebook, 37,000 New York Jet fans. YouTube channel, youtube.com/BoyGreen25, and on Twitter as well, @BoyGreen25. Also, the audio-only version will be up today. It was not up yesterday. We ran out of storage, so sorry for our audio-only listeners that did not get the episode 1 of Hop on Pop, because live, for those watching, my guest is, as it was yesterday, Hop on Pop, my father, or brother, as some of you have suggested yesterday, Paul Esden Sr. Senior, how are you?
I'm doing great. Actually, most of the people that commented thought that you were the older brother.
Ah, I see. Well, we kind of feel like that as the Jets since we've been smacking around the Cowboys the last 15 years. But you know what? Every dog has its day. We'll see if maybe that's today for Dallas.
You shouldn't have gone there this early. Just remember that a frog with a glass ass only hops once.
Okay, that's I don't think I've ever heard that before in my life, but nonetheless, I'm glad we can introduce some things here to our audience. So, guys, wherever you're watching, make sure you show your support. Make sure you ask your questions. We'll try to get to some of them throughout the show, so just interact with the program as much as possible. And speaking of interacting, quick shout-out, we have an article link to every show that we do. So, guys, if you want to support the show, you enjoy the program, make sure that you do that, certainly by popping on. We'd appreciate that. Just click the link where you're watching, read the article, takes 30 seconds, and also comment down below to say you enjoyed the show. We'd appreciate that. Well, Dad, before we even get to the game today, which we're going to do a game day preview, I can't believe in a handful of hours we're going to be at AT&T Stadium for this, but we're at AT&T Stadium yesterday, just kind of maybe it was part of your original plans. I don't know, when I flew in on Friday. You drove in on Friday as well. And then just kind of impromptu, we're like, let's go to AT&T yesterday. We're talking about, you guys saw some of the pictures before we started the show for the visual people. If you did not, you can also see some of those on social media. But we just kind of walked up. There's a little thing. You can either do a VIP tour or a self-guided tour. You get a little ticket, a little hubbub, and then you go right in and you can see all the wonders of AT&T. I know you did this before, maybe a decade plus ago. What was that experience like? We got to see a lot of different cool stuff at Jerry's World.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's literally the greatest stadium on the face of the planet Earth. Walking the field of America's team, it was amazing. People wonder why that TV screen is so large. Back in Texas Stadium, when they built it, they left a hole so God can watch his favorite team play football. Mm-hmm. Now we want to be able to see the TV screen, so he doesn't necessarily need the hole in the roof.
I see. He doesn't want to make the trip all the way down, kick up the Barker Lounger, and be able to take a gander at the team. It is spectacular, I will say. And I saw a lot of Jet fans, whether it was on Twitter, because I did a couple of videos to send out. I'll try to throw some of those on YouTube as well. But, just kind of surveying the landscape, so to speak. They're asking how it was in person, because we've had several Cowboys people on this week. Shout out to RJ Ochoa and Brandon Clements and some of those guys. They said it will live up to the hype, and the hype it has. We didn't have the game day experience yet, but the screen is friggin' massive. The place is beautiful. It's a palace, and it holds up very well. That was another big point, because it's crazy. It just makes me feel old. But the crazy thing is this stadium's been open for 15 years or so, some odd, which like I knew it, but I didn't. I kind of was in the suspension of disbelief that it was more recent, but it does stand to the test of time, and it's still as spectacular now as it was back then. So phenomenal experience. Shout out to the AT&T people for letting us in there, and all the Jet fans, and shout out to Junior. I know I did that on Twitter, but I want to say shout out to Junior, who recognized me as just going off the video. Went, Boy Green. We got to chat for a few minutes. So it was awesome to meet you, Junior, and all the people out there as well. So thank you guys for supporting the show. We appreciate it. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty here. We also have that in our heavy.com article. I know from the Jets side, we'll talk about the key injuries that we believe we know at this point. Number one, Greg Zuerlein out, the former Cowboys kicker. The Jets signed Austin Seibert, the 26-year-old. And apparently, this is interesting. I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on this one here, Pop. So the Jets signed Seibert, this kind of random kicker, whatever. He spent the last 2 years with the Detroit Lions. You know, he had somewhere in the ballpark of 76.5% on the field goal percentage. But the fact of the matter is, apparently the Jets struggled to find a kicker because this is an obvious short-term situation here, because Greg Zuerlein is expected to be back as early as next week against the New England Patriots. That's a Jets home game. But they struggled to find a guy. And from my perspective, I'm like, dude, these people that reach out to are obviously unemployed. They're sitting on the couch. The Jets offer an opportunity. Maybe it's only a 1-week game check to come in and kick for the Jets Cowboys. And if they look good, maybe that opens up other opportunities in the future. I was kind of surprised that, according to Connor Hughes, so shout out to Connor Hughes of SNY for that nugget, the Jets called a bunch of people, but they didn't get the reciprocation back because a lot of those people apparently said to the Jets, well, it's a 1-week rental. So that was kind of surprising.
Yeah, not really surprising. I mean, it is the Jets.
There we go.
But realistically, the top tier of those out there on the market probably didn't want to be locked in. You sign a contract. It's not a 1-week contract.
Right.
You sign a contract. Now you're at the whim of the Jets to cut you. It's like a lot of the things. So if you are top tier, you're looking for that long term. And most of the ones at the top don't need a resume check. So that's probably why I think we didn't get the top few. You know, you go back to when the Cowboys were winning Super Bowls, they had the philosophy, if you could kick a 40-yard field goal or punt the football 40 yards, we can pick in somebody off the street that can do that for the most part. So they know there's been a lot of salary cap space there in the early years. But, yeah, I would say the top tier ones are looking for that long-term deal, and this is clearly not it because Zuerlein is your guy.
And here's another thing. This is we're getting into the roster weeds here, but what the Jets did is they signed Austin Seibert to their practice squad and then used a practice squad elevation. Now, why that's important is you can pay people a lot less in the practice squad and use an elevation instead of giving a veteran that kind of contract. So maybe that's another turnoff potentially for some of those kickers for what amounts to be less money for a game check. But that's neither here nor there. So Greg Zuerlein will be out, so the Jets will have a new place kicker in Austin Seibert. And the good news is he only have to be kicking extra points because the Jets will be scoring touchdowns, baby, against the Dallas Cowboys, of course. But that's neither here nor there. The other injury, though, we heard from Adam Schefter at about 3 this morning for those who are up, or 2 a.m. This morning for us here in the Central Time Zone. Brandon Cooks unlikely to play. He hadn't practiced all week. It seemed unlikely. He had a couple of catches in the Giants game, but again, the Cowboys didn't really need to use him. So we haven't seen this new offensive piece for the Cowboys. Obviously, we're only here in week 2. Who steps up with Brandon Cooks out?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to check on your health. Did you bump your head last night?
Yes.
Just want to make sure you're all right. But anyways, I know your mom dropped you on your head a few times as a child, as a baby there. But anyways, I think this is Gallup's time to shine, right? He was in the 2021 season. He got injured. It was cut short. He came back last year, and the Cowboys had the luxury of treating him, with kid gloves. Well, now it's the time for him to step up and deliver as that he's going to step up to this wide receiver number 2 role. So that'll be really good. And then really the tight ends, they felt more comfortable enough with Ferguson to let Schultz go to the Houston Texans. So it'll be also time for the tight end room to step up as well.
Yeah, the other receiver, hopefully you can provide some details on this guy. I only heard about him because of, I think Brandon Clements was the one who brought him up when he was talking about the Texas Coast offense and things they're bringing up. Because again, a possibility, this isn't a dramatic surprise that Cooks is missing, Like Zach Martin would have been a surprise. He looks like he's going to play based on the practice squad elevations the Cowboys made. So he looks good to go. But from a receiver perspective, it looked like this was possible. And Brandon brought up another name, Jalen Tolbert. I had to make sure I looked this up, make sure I said it correctly. He's 24 years of age, went to college at South Alabama. Again, he has no statistics so far this season. He's another guy that apparently the Cowboys have been developing. He's been one of these young pieces. Apparently, he's expected to have some sort of role. Any details whatsoever on this relatively unknown guy?
Yeah, he had a lot of upside. Obviously, he came from FCS school of South Alabama, came out in 2020. So he's been relatively quiet, been developing on the team as that fourth string wide receiver. And so I expect to see there's a definite upside to him. We'll see it on the field today, as well as Turpin, who is, been dynamic. I went to the Pro Bowl as a return guy last year. And you get him in open space, it's going to be problems for the Jets.
Yeah, for the Cowboys offensive line, again, there was a weird pop-up from Zach Martin, which, again, is always concerning. It was the same way for Greg Zuerlein, who pops up when he wasn't on the injury report before. You kind of go, oh, boy, Zuerlein, bad news. Zach Martin looks like good news for the Cowboys outside of something surprising right before kickoff for some of those activations, which, by the way, is 4:25 your guys' time, East Coast, for us, Central Time, 3:25. There's some of the more official injury designations will be coming out in a handful of hours, again, as we're recording live here at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 6:30 a.m. Central Time here. Guys, feel free to keep getting the questions and comments in for Boy Green Daily. We are live from Dallas. It's spectacular. We will be heading out there in a handful of hours. So what is the level of concern, if any? So it looks like Zach Martin's good to go. Tyron Smith's going to go. Tyler Smith looks less likely, which would mean Chuma Edoga coming out there. Terrence Steele got the bag this offseason. And then obviously you have Tyler Biadasz as well at the offensive line. So it seems like really the only, if you want to say, like major weakness potentially is Edoga, although the Cowboys coaching staff seems to love him. What's the level of concern in terms of protecting Dak Prescott? That didn't seem to be a problem last week against the Giants.
Yeah, and again, it was the Giants. So essentially they're going to have the same offensive line they had last week. Last week they protected pretty well. Prescott's stats were not off the chart. All he did throw for an amazing 3 yards more than Zach Wilson.
Wow.
But really, it's going to be that Texas coast offense. I believe quick releases, quick passes out, which is important. I think the Cowboys offensive line will hold up well, but Dak has had a propensity to hold on to the ball in certain situations. Hopefully under Mike McCarthy, this gets the ball out of his hand quicker, which will play well into that.
The Jets defense is really good. Obviously, it was number 4 defense in the NFL last year. And then this year, they're right up there with the Cowboys in terms of creating turnovers so far. So turnover differential and some of those other key statistics, they're performing very well in. But if a team was to attack the Jets and they're looking for a weakness, it would probably be in the middle of the field, although Quincy Williams played spectacular last week. C.J. Mosley is coming off an all-pro campaign. But the tight end versus linebacker, or if they put a member of the secondary, again, faster than the linebacker or bigger than the secondary member, that could be a key. But a lot of drops last week for the Cowboys tight ends. Is there internal hope and desire from Cowboys fans and maybe even the Cowboys team as opposed to what we saw from the outside looking in last week on what the tight ends can produce?
Yeah, the tight ends, they really let Dalton Schultz go for pennies on the dollar. Mm-hmm. And so what they saw from their draft pick, second-round draft pick, and Ferguson, they did have some drop balls last week. But, again, it was pouring rain. It's weird on the television. You watch the television. Yeah. It looks clear. You don't see the rain.
4K, high def, whatever that is, yeah.
Yeah, and then you step back and they show other parts of the field, and it's a torrential downpour.
Yeah.
And so that there weren't all the turnovers from last week in the Giants-Cowboys game, that was because men were playing football. There was some hitting going on. They were bringing them to the woodshed. And it wasn't, the bobble. It wasn't because of the wet field, which was impressive for both teams, right? They had the turnovers and the bobbled snaps and stuff, but that was execution, not because of the rain.
And by the way, you guys can see the double shirts. Look at this gift, the UFC shirts. We're watching some Ultimate Fighter yesterday, and I know we have. Again, I've been pushed. Maybe this is a future thing, Pop, but there is at least 10 or 15 of these crazy diehard Jet fans that want an MMA show in the future. So maybe that's something we'll have to dabble into and branch off with. But nonetheless, I think this is a poignant comment here by Charles on YouTube. love the show. Appreciate the shout out here on YouTube. I think the main story is how Zach plays, and I think that tells both sides of the story because obviously Aaron Rodgers, season-ending injury, although maybe not season-ending. Adam Schefter shared this morning, and there was also the Athletic piece that he is going to be fighting to come back as long as if Zach Wilson is performing poorly or is hurt or anything of that nature, Aaron Rodgers potentially could come back. But if Zach Wilson's playing well, Aaron Rodgers said he will not disrupt whatever that flow is. So you guys, for that story that came in, which is amazing. But on the Zach Wilson thing, if he plays horribly, obviously that quarterback is the most important position in football. Him playing horribly affects the rest of the game. But the surprise factor of him potentially performing very well, all of a sudden that opens it up because I'm curious, is Nathaniel Hackett, who we don't really know because Aaron Rodgers went out immediately, does he put the training wheels on Zach Wilson and they just try not to F things up against his Cowboys defense? Or do they allow a little bit of loosey-goosey and give him some opportunities to attack maybe the second and third levels of this defense? That could be potential. Again, this Cowboys defense is dangerous, so it's almost like you're playing with a ticking time bomb with some of that stuff because the deeper passing concepts you'd have to do invites opportunities for Micah Parsons in this pass rushing unit to get after Zach Wilson.
Yeah, so a lot there, but I'll start off with the Jets' weakness for their team, in not only my opinion, but many sports reporters' opinions and experts, is their offensive line. Mm-hmm. It is the weakest part of the link. And so to go against arguably the best defensive line pass rush in the NFL, that's going to be a problem. Zach Wilson, I hope they play it close to best. I don't want it to turn into a rout. If he drops back too many times, right, he's not at Corner Canyon High School anymore.
Wow.
Corner Canyon High School. He was the best quarterback out of Corner Canyon High School in Utah.
Very reputable.
Ever. Right.
Yeah.
And you know what his number was back then?
No.
Number 1.
Yeah.
There's a reason he's number 2 now. And I'll give you a few insights on that.
Okay.
Jet fans I love them, right? They're great.
I feel like there's a butt coming.
No, there's not a butt coming. But for example, they're satisfied. They've been so used to mediocre quarterback play. Mm. You were wearing a shirt yesterday that said Zach Wilson is good.
That picked up a lot of steam, by the way. We got a few pictures, yes.
And so people, like, you're happy because your quarterback is good, right? Because mediocre wouldn't have fit on the shirt. But Zach Wilson is maybe average. But the most poignant comment we had by people that came up to us and talked to us yesterday is the person that said, I wish we had Mark Sanchez back. That's what the person said, unsolicited. Yeah. Unsolicited. He'd prefer to have Mark Sanchez, and you should let that permeate, internalize that. That is a horrifying statement, right? He is average, and that will be the struggle. The offensive line protect him. Hopefully, they have a get it out of his hands quick policy and don't subject him to the abuse that Daniel Jones got last week.
Well, I would just say this, and I think this is I don't know if common misconception is too aggressive, but Zach Wilson is good. It's a funny shirt, and again, it got random pictures with people who are on random people's social media with the Jets and Cowboys fan hanging out, and Zach Wilson is good. So I got a few laughs about that. But I think what is, again, misconstrued here is Zach Wilson doesn't have to be great. If he's great, then all of a sudden, that's what I'm talking about earlier, then whoa, okay, he has undergone some sort of metamorphosis of some sort. But if he's just good or even average, to your point, the way the rest of this Jets roster is constructed as one of the best rosters in football with defense and this and that, all of a sudden maybe that is enough to do things and he doesn't have to go crazy. I do want to throw the shout out here. What a YouTube super chat. Hello. Cam631 Laser, you guys have a beer on me. Sending $20 in on the super chat. Thank you. Zooey Mama, thank you, pal. And by the way, Cam631 Laser sponsors our video call-in line. And if it wasn't obvious, I want to announce it. We will not be having a post-game show this evening because of in Dallas. We'll be at A&T and coming out and everything. We will not have that, but I'll make it up to you guys. I fly back into New York tomorrow, and we'll do a live call-in show for all you fans to react a day later. So, guys, stay tuned for that on the channel. Camp 631 Laser, we will take you up on that, sir. Thank you very much. And $20 will probably get us half the beer at AT&T. I'm not sure. I haven't seen the prices, but that would be my assumption. But nonetheless, we could share that. We got the same name for Pete's sake, so we'll dig in on that. I appreciate that, guys. We'll try to answer a few more of your questions. Oh, there you go. Matthias sent this one up. Is this a low-scoring game, or will they surprise us? Now, I'll go back to, this is not a linear example, but the Rams-Chiefs a couple of years ago when they had that 56-53, I don't think any of us knew that's what the game was going to be, and then it happened. But I'm going to be honest, putting that one as a random example. I imagine no matter what way this goes, that it's going to be low scoring. The only caveat potentially to that is turnovers on either side. If Dak's throwing pick sixes or Zach Wilson's fumble rooskieing the ball, all of a sudden that's when scores and things can get out of whack. But I fully anticipate this. We might as well give our predictions as we're already near the end of the show. I'm in somewhere in the ballpark. Jets win. I think this is, I don't know if this was my official Monday mailbag, so things may have changed, but 22-18 Jets upsetting the Dallas Cowboys, going to 2-0 for the first time since 2015. And getting the upset. I just think people are overlooking the Jets. I feel like they don't understand, and I understand because the Jets have been bad for a long time. The 12 years active playoff drought that's happening there. But I think people are overlooking the Jets. They don't understand how good this roster is. They're still being introduced on a national stage. Well, technically, this is in prime time, Pop. It is the national stage window. Tony Romo and company are going to be on this game. But I think people are just out in the Jets, so they're going to surprise everybody and get the dub, baby. As James says, eat the W. I think that's what will be happening. But low-scoring game, to your point, Matthias. I would be surprised if we get anywhere near the 30s. Pop.
Yeah, well, surprised is what I am. So I do believe it'll be a low-scoring game. It could blow up, but it was more likely that it'll be the Jets committing the turnovers. If you look at it, it breaks down to me, the game comes down to this.
Okay.
The Cowboys offensive line versus the Jets defensive line and vice versa. The Jets offensive line. And so what you have here is the Cowboys offensive line has two Hall of Fame. Wrap your head around what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When their offensive line goes on the field, there will be at least two players that will be in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Well, one of them expired. That's Tyron Smith, who's on life support at the end of his career. But sure, eventually.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Right. Versus a patchwork, mismatch, polywog, and Corner Canyon High School graduate who's good. So I believe it will be a close-scoring game. I have it 20-12 Cowboys win.
Okay. Well,
and the 12 is because you are my namesake, and I don't want to embarrass you on your podcast.
Well, that's nice to do that. And again, Boy Green Daily, a show with Boy Green. Hello, that's me on the program, but I appreciate that nonetheless. All right, guys, let's get any of your final comments in. Feel free to throw in your own predictions. I've seen 6 sacks incoming. Again, I think that Michael Irvin said it, so even Cowboys' namesake saying it, that he believes this Jets defense is going to give Dak Prescott problems, and I agree. The ability for pressure, and then obviously the corner play, that the Jets have the best 3 corners in the NFL. When you pair those two things together, I think that's certainly going to help. Arm wrestle time. Come on, I don't want to embarrass my dad on a live show here, Jared, but thank you for throwing that up. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Tweet Pop surprise face. I will be, for those of you who are going to be hanging around, once we're at the game, I'm not going to be doing all kinds of crazy stuff, but one thing I will be doing, if content is coming out, pay attention to the Twitter sphere at BoyGreets25. So video, instant stuff like that. I won't be on my phone the whole time because, we'll be watching the game, but we'll be popping up some of those video reactions. Like, I remember this. Here's a quick story time before we get out of here. We'll see if my dad remembers this. So, what this is, what we're doing right now, this Jets-Cowboys game, is a Father's Day tradition between, me and my father. That what we do is, on Father's Day, maybe you guys normally do something around the holiday. A couple of years ago, me and my dad figured that we would do something together at a later point in the year, especially as we're both in separate places in terms of living. And when we did this, we decided to do an event later in the year, whatever it was. And in this particular case, this year, it's Jets Cowboys that we're here to go and do this thing. And a couple years ago, we did that on one of the greatest sporting weekends of all time, pairing all these things together. Went to Jets Cowboys in 2019. I thought we were going to see Luke Falk on the field, so I was a little nervous. And then thankfully, Sam Darnold came back from mononucleosis, and that was his first game back. And the Jets were backed into their own 5-yard line. And I was sitting next to a bunch of Cowboys fans who apparently travel. They're all over the gosh darn place. I turned to my dad, the Cowboys fan, this is going for a touchdown. And they're like, what are you talking about? And as soon as Sam Darnold did the beautiful fake on the play action, I'm like, oh my God, Robbie Anderson, baby, or Chosen Anderson, or he's changed his name about 7 times. I'm not really sure where we're landing now, but Chosen something. At that time, play action deep down the field. It was one of the longest plays in Jets history, somewhere in the ballpark of like 86 or 90 yards. Took it to the house. Exciting, crazy, awesome action. And all the Cowboys fans around us, that was spectacular. So I'm hoping for something similar today. Some sort of, I can have some sort of, prognostication of guys, watch after this. This is going to be a this, So I'm hoping for a little bit of that action. That should be spectacular.
I think his name is Benchwarmer Anderson.
Oh, that's not nice. That's not nice. Former undrafted guy. We love the Sun God, of course. I think he's on the Dolphins practice squad now. So again, chip away, Chosen. We'll always remember you, the former Temple product. Well, Dad, this is our second show that we've done together. Obviously, we did one yesterday. Any final thoughts? Anything we didn't get out there, either on this matchup or just in general heading into this game, that you want to throw out to the ethos? Because obviously tomorrow the band breaks up, which is sad. You got to go your separate way. I got to go my separate way in the morning. So I think I'll be doing this Boy Green Daily show alone in the hotel room tomorrow morning. So before we get to the game and all that jazz, any final nuggets or thoughts to share?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. If you like great defense, this is the opportunity to watch it. It will be interesting on both sides, the offense, to see what they haven't set up for Zach Wilson. It is a short week. I think for Jets fans out there, for your, to be a glass half full kind of person, if he doesn't do well this week, I wouldn't take that as a sign for the season.
Zach Wilson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't pull the string on him. Again, he's had 3 to 4 days to prepare a practice time as a starter. That's not where he was at. They've had to do some check and adjust. So the upside after the loss is he has a ways to go. And it'll be interesting to see this Texas Coast offense and what that entails. So a lot of great defense, and interesting on both sides of the ball how offense performs.
Yeah, quick nugget on what you said, and then we'll also just kind of sign off here. Zach Wilson has a chance. Now, I understand the greater public is in, boy, Zach Wilson, not very good. But next week, he has a chance to quell some demons. The Jets return home to play against the New England Patriots, who have beaten them. I hate that I know these numbers off the top of my head, or like I literally know them. The Patriots have beaten the Jets 14 times in a row. They've beaten them 22 of the last 24, and the Jets have not beaten the Patriots within the 60 minutes of regulation play since they were last in the playoffs during the year 2011, but the 2010 season. So they have not been able to do that, and obviously Zach Wilson was not ghosts. That was Sam Darnold. But that same sort of thing where he kind of imploded with that 4 picks, whether that was last year or the year before, or the bad punt game or all that stuff. So it's a chance to quell some demons. So even you're right, if somehow he was unable to do it this week, that he has chances throughout the season to try to figure out to see what that's going to look like. But I think that's the nugget to share as we're heading into this game. We have no idea what the Cowboys offense actually is because we didn't have to see it in week 1, and it was a torrential rain game. So even then, it adds another level of, you could throw this one out. The Jets, we don't know because the offense was designed around Aaron Rodgers. Zach Wilson knows the playbook, so that part helps, obviously. But the part of the equation we don't know is now they're changing things for Zach Wilson. He had a full week of game prep. It is a short week, but a full week, quote unquote, of game prep heading into this Cowboys game, of designing things. Zach Wilson's a quarterback. We're designing things for Zach Wilson. I'm fascinated to see what that's going to be. So for both sides of the equation against great defense. So it should be a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, the 100 people that have been in and out of this live, the people who are listening on the audio version ahead of the game later today. Thanks, everybody. I'm glad you guys enjoyed my father being here. It's been pretty cool for me for him to do this live show that we've been doing for a bunch of months for the first time. So this is going to be spectacular. It's going to be a great experience for both of us live at AT&T. diehard Cowboys fan over here that's never been to Jerry's World for a game. And why not for both of us here in the year 2023 to be able to do this and remember this forever should be spectacular. Thanks, guys, for all the interactions, and we will stay tuned. So stay tuned to Twitter and YouTube. I'll try to upload some of the videos there as well, celebrating the Jets win, obviously, and all the hoopla that'll be happening from that perspective. But for a full video experience, we'll be back tomorrow morning at 7:30 your time, East Coast, 6:30 Central Time. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Any final note, Pop?
Yeah, it's been a tremendous pleasure to do these with you. We used to do them back in the day. I'm looking forward to a great day. I appreciate the fans. I appreciate the beers. The beers are $10 a piece, so that will cover a round of beers. So I appreciate that. And so looking forward to it. Hope it's a great game. And I wish the Jets after this game a good season and to end that playoff drought.
That's good. Yeah, let's end on that. I just want to add a final nugget. So as we're kind of going through AT&T Stadium yesterday, we got to see a bunch of things on the self-guided tour. Which, by the way, if you guys ever go to AT&T, it's a great experience. You guys can kind of go at your own pace and do your own thing. So we did not do the VIP. We only did the self-guided tour. And one of the things we saw was a Cowboys locker room. We were not allowed to go inside because of game day preparations for the previous day. But there was a guy there that's kind of like making sure we don't open the door and go in. And he took a picture of us in front of the Cowboys door. And then he took a step back so you could see that we're in front of the locker room. And he said exactly what you just said. He's like, I hope the Jets go undefeated outside of this week. So, I got nothing against you. Why wouldn't you? We only play each other every 4 years. So it's not a rivalry per se. It's for us because of our, specific love. But that was cool to hear the Cowboys people. And it's been some fun back and forth all week. So it's a lot of fun. Thanks, everybody, for jumping in. And thanks again to, once again, Cam631 Laser for the beer purchase. We appreciate that and all the support. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Enjoy the game. And we'll see you next time tomorrow morning at 7:30. Take care. Thanks, everybody.